Hello and welcome to REALink, which promotes real conversations about pertinent concerns. REALink is a virtual conversation series where we'll be engaging our special guests and you, of course, and together we will explore various topics that matter in our society. And the theme for this year, 2021, rebuilding the community, where we seek to reconnect with communities that have been adversely affected by societal issues, exploring what has and can be done to break the cycle of hurt. REALink is also a campaign to raise funds to support the work that is being done by the Lutheran Community Care Services, otherwise simply known as LCCS. As a non-profit social service agency, LCCS has been actively engaging and empowering individuals and families to build and sustain relationships. Now, focusing on restorative practices, LCCS has served and continues to serve families, schools, institutes, residential homes, and various organizations to restore relationships that have been harmed and, of course, connecting communities together. Now, it may interest you to know also that LCCS is a full member of the National Council of Social Service and has been accorded Institution of a Public Character status. And I'm Augustine Antoine, and it's both my pleasure and privilege to be your host and moderator for today's REALink Conversation series, which is also an online fundraising campaign alongside the speakers who will be sharing throughout the series. And of course, with the speaker for today, it is Dipa Swaminathan, and we are coming to you live from this LCCS studio here in Singapore. Thank you for being here and welcome one and all to the REALink Virtual Conversation series. Today is session number 7 in our series and is entitled Foreign Workers, Forgotten Heroes. You see, every fortnight on a Friday we'll be featuring local and international speakers who will share their perspectives on different topics, and this series kicked off in June and will run all the way till November. And here at LCCS, we believe in creating a safe and meaningful space for our speakers to talk about what matters, which is why we'd like you to stay connected with LCCS, with one another, and most certainly we'd like to invite you to participate in today's panel discussion. So take a moment to write your comments and questions in the comments section on your screen, and we'll also seek your kind-hearted donation. Please use the QR code that will appear at the bottom of your screen as well as in the comments section. You'll be glad to know that your donation will be eligible for a 1-for-1 matching, as REALink is part of the Tote Board Enhanced fundraising program. Every donation above $10 is also eligible for a 250% tax deduction. Without further ado then, to kick off session 7, Foreign Workers, Forgotten Heroes, in our REALink LCCS 2021 Virtual Conversation series, I'd like to welcome Dipa Swaminathan. Hi Dipa, welcome to the program. Really good to see you. I understand it all started back in 2014, and rain had a lot to do with what inspired you to do what you're doing right now. Take it away, Dipa.
So I started an initiative for migrant workers, around 2015. But what preceded it was, an incident where basically I was driving home in the rain one day, and I saw these 2 migrant workers on my street. It was a pouring rain shower, much like what we've been seeing in Singapore these past few days and weeks. And it was around 11 in the afternoon, and I saw these 2 guys soaking wet. They didn't have an umbrella, they didn't have a raincoat, and I drove past them feeling really sorry for them. But something made me stop my car, reverse. I came back to them and I said, why don't you get into my car? My house is just down the road. You can take shelter there until the rain stops. They were, of course, very reluctant because they didn't know who I was, the strange woman, asking them to get into her car. And they were also coy because they were wet and muddy. But I said, look, I can get my car washed. I'm not going to move until you get in. I can be quite persistent. So they got into my car. I took them home. and we gave them some hot coffee, some food to eat. I gave them my husband's, some dry shirts for them to change into. And when the rain stopped, I took a photo of them to put on Facebook, to say that if employers, send workers out to work, especially those who do outdoor work, then they should at least have a raincoat or an umbrella with them. The workers got a little worried because I'd taken their photos. So they said, what if, we get into trouble or something? So I said, well, I'm a lawyer. And I gave them my mobile number scrawled on a piece of paper for them to, if they ever felt for some reason, because of my taking a photo of them, they were going to get into trouble, for them to call me. Although I didn't know their names, I didn't know the name of the companies. I wasn't going to name anybody, but I'd just taken a photo of them. Anyway, they took my number, that slip of paper. I gave them a little cash for them to have, treat themselves to a nice meal that night, and off they went. And I didn't hear from them until about 3 months later on a Sunday, when I had a call from the police to say that one of those two guys had tried to commit suicide, and the only number he had with him was mine. So, would I be willing to go and post bail for him? So, when I heard especially that, this guy in all of Singapore, I found it so sad that the only number he had, the only contact he had was me, and that was because of a chance encounter. I couldn't obviously say no to him. So I mean, not to him, I couldn't say no to the police. So I went down to the Jurong Police Division where they told me to appear, by which time they'd moved him to the mental hospital, which is the protocol for, suicide cases. At that time, attempted suicide was a crime in Singapore. It no longer is. So then I had to go to the mental hospital. And when I got there, I saw this guy sort of all hunched over, really, he had a beard. He was a sort of a shadow of the man I'd seen, 3 months ago. So I said, what happened? And he said he hadn't been paid his wages for 6 months. Migrant workers earn $18 a day, not $18 an hour, but $18 a day. And so they have no plan B. If they're not paid their wages, it's not like they have an extra $100 or $200 sitting in the bank account that'll tide them over. They pretty much live, month to month. And even that is very difficult. So if they're not paid for 6 months, you can imagine the agony this man was under, because he had a family to support back home. He had loan sharks hounding him, and all of these issues. And so he decided to just end it all, and he tried to hang himself. Luckily, he didn't do a good job of it. So when I heard all this, I said to him, look, I'm here now. I'm going to take care of it. Don't do anything foolish a second time. And, I passed him a $50 note, and I came out. And by this time, there were policemen guarding that ward because he was a criminal. So I told these policemen, I said, look, this guy's just a victim here. He's not a criminal. He hasn't tried to harm anybody. He was wronged, and he took the only way out that he knew. But those policemen didn't quite get what I was saying. They were young cops. Maybe I wasn't expressing myself clearly. So I went back and I wrote an email to the commissioner of police saying all this, and saying that they really should be tracking down the employer, making sure he pays this guy his back wages, and then they should release this guy because he's not a criminal here. So I kept sending that email every day. Like I said earlier, I can be quite persistent. And then a week later, I had a call from the police to say that, firstly, they said, Ms. Swaminathan, please stop sending us emails. But they were sharing the good news that they had released, his name is Murugan, by which time I'd found that out. They'd released Murugan, dropped all charges against him, but most importantly, they'd contacted the employer and made him pay him all his back wages. And a month later, Murugan was at my doorstep like a man reborn. He was so relieved. He'd got all his wages, and he had come to thank me. His wife called me from India to thank me. And it was amazing, and it was a revelation to me that with just a little investment of my time, there wasn't any rocket science involved. I didn't spend, any money. I just signed a bond, and I spent a little time, maybe a total time expenditure of 3-4 hours in the whole thing, and it made such a difference to this one guy. So that was a real eye opener for me, that with those of us who are in a position of some form of privilege, and that privilege can just be the ability to speak English, to write, to know what our rights are, to be able to take a stand. We can do a lot for those who can't do that for themselves. Um, and so I went around, helping migrant workers in my own personal capacity. And some of these stories went viral on social media, and they were picked up by the press. And the Singapore Kindness Movement came to me and said, why don't you start something? And they gave me a day to kind of set up a Facebook page for something. At that time, I didn't realize this was going to go anywhere. It was just supposed to be a Facebook page for one event. I thought maybe 4.5 people would see it. And I'd heard the song It's Raining Men the night before. So I came up with It's Raining Raincoats, because, the whole thing began with rain. So that is the start of, my journey with It's Raining Raincoats and trying to help migrant workers, and the connection with.
Thank you so much, Dipa. And for those of you who've just joined us on this live stream, thank you for your patience. And as you can see, I'm also looking at the big screen. So you've got Deepa's name, and she is, of course, I'm taking a quick look, founder. It's Raining Raincoats. I thought it was important to actually listen to Deepa sharing how it started years back. So a couple of points came up, Dipa. One, of course, is the concern about the challenges that our foreign workers, the migrant workers, are going through, pushing them to the brink where suicide becomes a real choice for them. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think there are other segments of the population that resort to suicide as well. So it's not something peculiar to migrant workers.
True.
I think it is a sort of a mental issue to some extent. I'm no expert on suicides, but and I don't have first-hand experience of a lot of migrant worker suicides, although I do know of some. But invariably, much as in any other case, I suppose. I think it happens when, for whatever reason, the individual believes there is no other way out. So given that migrant workers sort of tend to socialize among themselves, I think it's important for all of us to really play a role, and ensure that they don't get pushed. Circumstances don't work so against them that they think of this as a resort. And I think that's happening. I think, there is a great deal of awareness about what they're going through. And, I think all the stakeholders, from, the government agencies to NGOs to, others, I suppose, are increasingly becoming aware with every passing year. I think we're getting better at it, but there's obviously a long way to go.
Well, you're of course, more tuned in particular. I mean, your work involves primarily the foreign workers and men. Am I right?
Yes, the male
and so
migrant workers.
So I brought up the question about suicide and the larger concerns about mental health. I mean, since you narrated the beginnings of the work that you're doing, a couple of years have passed by. Are we in a much better position now? Not just your organization, but various other NGOs, and of course even state, to talk to these people, to be available to these workers, to be a sort of someone they can talk to and listen to as well.
Absolutely. I think we've come a really long way, from the days when I started It's Raining Raincoats, and I'm really proud of the work It's Raining Raincoats has done, because when I started it, that was shortly after the Little India riots, and they were quite maligned as a group, right, given what had happened. And I felt that was unfortunate as well, because, those were the acts of a few men acting for whatever reason. in the way they did. But, the entire group of migrant workers was kind of maligned. So when I started It's Raining Raincoats, it wasn't a glamorous cause at all. There weren't a whole bunch of other groups doing it. There were, of course, a couple of the more prominent ones, but not a lot of, smaller ones, at least not to, my recollection at the time. So one of the things we at It's Raining Raincoats do, and I think we do it quite successfully, is we focus on building bridges of engagement. In fact, that's our mission statement, is to build bridges of engagement between Singaporeans and our migrant brothers, using very nimble, authentic, and imaginative strategies. And to give you an example, every year we run a drive around Christmas called We Have a Dream, Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream. So a bit of a lift off from that. And the idea is for every single migrant worker in Singapore to get a Christmas present. And it can be something as small as a tiger balm that is gift wrapped. The only condition is that it be new and it be gift wrapped, so that they feel that they're getting a present. And they know that, some stranger who's never met them, doesn't know their name, has taken the time and the effort and has had the goodness of heart to think of them and, and wrap a gift. This drive, we've been running it for about 3 years now. This will be the 4th year. It's been hugely successful because, a lot of our neighbors, Singaporeans, residents of Singapore, feel for these guys, right? They feel a sense of appreciation for what they do, for the fact that they build our homes, our offices, they tar our roads, they dig our underground tunnels, they prune our 30-feet trees. They do all of this in the sun, in the rain, and then they're transported around in lorries, they go back to their crowded dorms, and they wake up the next morning and do it all over again and again and again. So people feel, that sense of compassion towards them. They feel that sense of gratitude. But, perhaps in the past, they didn't quite know how to express it. You had to either, maybe the avenues were more limited. But when we open up these myriad avenues for people to engage, the outpouring of support we get is just wonderful, and it's overwhelming. The trouble people take in gift wrapping, the beautiful packages that come, the beautifully handwritten notes that children write, adults write, all kinds of communities get involved, all races, all walks of life, all religious backgrounds. So, by running these drives, I think we've built those bridges of engagement so that the workers now know that, there is a huge constituency of people out there who care about them and who support them. So, that, like I always say, a bottle of Tiger Balm is not going to dramatically alter the circumstances for a migrant worker. But what is more important is the gesture behind it, for him to know that he's not invisible, that he's not just part of the scenery, that people out there, recognize their contributions and are doing their part to, to acknowledge it.
Fine, I hear you, and it's good to know, as a Singaporean myself, but I want to go back to some of the points that you raised. You have said, and I want to quote you correctly, that we should be shifting our perception that migrant workers are dirty or societal outcasts. We need to correct perceptions in our own circles and speak up on the issue when the opportunity arises at the dinner table or at different social settings, which is exactly today's conversation. That's what it's all about. But I want to put you in a spot, so to speak, and ask you some tough questions. When I heard you narrating your own experience, which launched you on this journey, that rain and the workers working in those difficult conditions without the raincoats and the necessary gear, has that improved? In other words, are the employers providing the raincoats? We're talking a few 100,000 workers in Singapore, providing them the safety boots and all this, or should the law step in here and make it mandatory?
Well, I don't want to, comment on, what the law should and shouldn't do, but, we still get, unfortunately, photos and videos of workers, not properly attired for the rain. Sometimes not at all, sometimes with black garbage bags, which I think is a little demeaning, and also not fully functional. So, I can't put a hand on my heart and say the situation is completely altered, right? That there's nothing further for us to do here. That's not the case, unfortunately. And but conversely, the beauty is in my front porch right now. If you came, there isn't place to walk because members of the public see the photos and the videos we share on our Facebook page, and I've been ordering raincoats from places like Decathlon and wherever else, and they come to us in the hundreds, if not the thousands, and our volunteers drive around distributing it. So, I don't want to sit in an ivory tower and postulate on what others should or shouldn't do. What should employers do? What should the law do? I think the answers are obvious. I just do what I can do.
Well said. Thank you. I just threw it out there because you're a lawyer by profession, so I I just threw that question out. Food. It is another important area. You've raised that concern yourself. They prepare the food early hours of the morning, but finally when they consume it, you use the word purid. I mean, honestly, can that be better? Is there ever going to be a reality where we can provide them hot meals, or when they finally sit down to take a break, a much needed break, and have their lunch or dinner?
Yeah, I think the word was putrid, and it wasn't mine. I think there were studies conducted by the National University of Singapore that said
I stand
that had
corrected.
found.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, yeah. And they had found that the food was either rancid or just gone bad, basically, right? Which is not hard to figure out when you think of a packet of rice with a little curry, fish or whatever, tamarind, which goes bad if left in the sun. And if it gets deposited at their work sites at 6 a.m. and then they have to eat that lunch at 12 noon and they open it up, it's probably gone bad by then. And if that is your staple diet day in and day out, then you can imagine the psychological effects of that, leave alone the health effects. So I think it's in everybody's interest. You see, the whole issue with migrant workers, if you just twist, not twist, if you just change the perspective, the paradigm a little bit, and think that these issues are important not just for the welfare of the migrant workers, not just because you care about them and it's good for them, but it's good for the entire system, the ecosystem of Singapore, right? Because if the workers are healthy, if they're eating good food, if they're well looked after, there's going to be fewer health issues, there's going to be higher morale and productivity, there'll be fewer accidents on the work site. If there are fewer accidents on the work site, there's less of a burden on healthcare providers, on insurers, on government agencies, on regulators, indeed on the employers themselves. Because if your workforce is healthy, functioning as it should, without accidents, without illnesses, without this and without that, then it benefits the employer, it benefits Singapore's reputation, which benefits all of us. So to me, looking at the welfare of the migrant workers just purely as a migrant worker issue is not entirely correct. We need to look at it as something that impacts sort of, the entire ecosystem of Singapore. And that's the view I take. And I believe that, in helping them, we're not just helping them, we're actually indirectly helping ourselves. And I'm not saying that we should do it from a selfish perspective, but you can render help whichever way you want to look at it. But I think when you look at it this way, then it becomes clearer that these issues that need to be tackled do need to be tackled.
Well, I mean, I speak for myself personally. I certainly hope we can move the needle on helping these hardworking people with just basically, hot meals. They're entitled to it.
Actually, yeah, they are not that fussy, to be honest. Everybody has social media, they could be complaining on social media all the time. Why don't we hear about all this? Because they're very accepting of their circumstances. They're very resilient. They're not the whining, complaining type. Really, the only time that they can't take it anymore is when they're not paid their wages, because that's why they're here. Um, so that's their biggest grievance. And as long as they are paid their wages on time, they're obviously not starving. They're not the kind to sort of whine and complain. But I think it then falls on us to put ourselves in their shoes. I think it would be a great experiment for people to live like them for a day and just do exactly as they do. Eat the food they eat, transport the way they're transported, do the work that they do, sleep where they sleep, use the toilets that they use. And then, I think we could, it would be more useful to have these conversations, because it's very hard to just sit on the side and speak about their hardships, when most of us, I don't think, would be able to endure it for perhaps even a day.
We're doing very well, and I hope everybody is able to participate. And we've reached the midpoint, believe it or not. It's for those of you who are watching us, this is the LCCS REALink 2021 Virtual Conversation Series. The theme for the entire year is rebuilding the community. And of course, we're listening to Dipa Swaminathan, and we're discussing foreign workers and forgotten heroes. The REALink is also an LCCS fundraising campaign. We'd like to seek your support to give a donation using the QR code at the bottom of the screen, as well as in the comments section. You'd be glad to know that your donation will be eligible for a 1-for-1 matching, as REALink is part of the Tote Board Enhanced fundraising program for the projects that are underway at LCCS. And all donations above $10 are eligible for a 250% tax deduction, and it goes towards supporting LCCS in empowering and engaging individuals and families to build and restore relationships. Deepa, back to you. Another area that, I've been following the media reports, and including the latest reports that have come out on the living conditions of our migrant workers. The scientific community is getting involved. They're using mathematical models to look at airflow, ventilation, windows, and all that. What about you? How do you feel when you read about these reports? All in the right direction, I hope.
Yes, definitely. I think any improvement is a step in the right direction, given to where they are. And we've actually been in discussions with MOM, and we've had, and hopefully will continue to have, the opportunity to give more feedback on what some of the, because we are in touch with thousands and thousands of workers. I have their numbers on my phone. Every morning my sons may forget to wish me good morning, my husband might forget to, but I'll have sort of 100 good morning messages from migrant workers on my phone. It's very sweet. So we kind of have a sense of what they might like, what some of the issues are. One of the main issues for them is really the worker to toilet ratio. And that's not because of some fussy, OCD issues. It's purely one of time, because, if you have sort of 50 or 100 workers sharing a toilet or a set of toilets, and they have to board their lorries, which take them to the construction site at, say, 6 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. sometimes. If you're, back in the good old days when we all used to take flights and, you've traveled to the airport early in the morning, I'm sure you've seen lorries with workers, going around, because they do get transported very early. So in order to make it to the lorry at 5:30, for those of us who have to, if there's a cab I have to catch in the morning at 5:30, I could actually get up at 5, jump into the shower, change, go, right? But imagine if I had 50 people waiting for that same shower before me. I'd probably have to get up at 4, right? So these are practical issues that the workers tell us they face. That
practical issues, but literally that's what's happening. They're getting up even earlier, not enough sleep, just to get to that queue. So I read the reports. They've actually arrived at a number, right? There should be a proper number of the ratio between the people, the workers, and the bathrooms and the toilets.
Yeah, there should be, because sometimes, they've told us if they miss, because, I mean, obviously, if you have to go, you have to go. And if you don't get to and you miss the lorry, they don't have money to catch a taxi, right? A taxi ride from, 2 hours to, the construction site, maybe on River Valley Road could be, $25. That's 1.5 days' wages for them, right? So they don't end up going to work that day. Then what happens is they get docked the day's wages. It just snowballs into all kinds of issues. So I think, as long as these kinds of real practical issues are addressed and drilled down to that level of detail, how many workers can use, a toilet cubicle? How long will they have to wait to do that? And maybe test it, modulate it. So all of these things, I think if they happen, the things like the airflow and all of that, I think that's important for a further, prevention of another outbreak. But we shouldn't forget, while we have this chance, to improve the other sort of living, comfort aspects for the work.
I just hope we arrive at a solution quickly. I speak for myself. We hear you, Dipa, and you're giving us a very balanced perspective on a range of issues. But I just felt, as a Singaporean and as an observer, these workers are building state-of-the-art facilities for all of us to enjoy and to live in and to use. Why can't the best minds just come together and build proper facilities for these people to...
And I always say, make that same point you made, which is but in a slightly different context. And I say, think of how they must feel when they build a luxurious condominium or a 5-star hotel. And then at the end of the day, they go back to, their living conditions, right? I mean, just imagine the psychological toll that will take on a human being. They're human beings too, just like you and me, right? It's just important to put ourselves in their shoes, whenever we can, when we talk about them or we're discussing issues that impact them.
Well, like you, we push on. And I like to frame the next segment as finding their own voice. Actually, you alluded to it earlier. Quite a number of the migrant workers have gone on to the social media to produce their own little films. I saw one at least by Ramasamy Madhavan. He created 2 little videos, Salary Day and Painful Path. I mean, honestly, I thought it was, as someone who comes from a media background myself, nice one. And people have gone onto social media, Instagram, and they've created little following there. But all these things are basically sort of like, sometimes I don't want to put this in a negative way, but like a voice in the wilderness. They're raising concerns. You talked about getting employers to pay salaries on time every month without fail. But I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think, it's wonderful that, some of them are using their creative talents to, to portray their situations and feeling empowered to do it, right? I mean, that shows that things are moving in the right direction, that the workers feel the space and, feel that they have the voice to articulate, what they're feeling. And that's good, because I think a healthy expression of, what you're enduring, we all use, that's what we use social media for, right? To vent sometimes, to brag sometimes, to share what's going on with us. And the same with them. I think it gives them a bit of an outlet, to share with the world. I know a lot of them, for example, follow my page and they'll comment sometimes. That's nice. But I think on the salary disputes, fortunately, we're seeing fewer of those these days. So hopefully, at least, that major issue is if not completely eliminated, it's definitely, we're in a much better place. There's electronic payments mandated. Now, you see, in the past, it used to be very difficult for a worker to even prove that he had not been paid, because if you're being paid in cash, then really how do you say that you didn't get the money? It's sort of your word against the employer's word. And if the employer's lawyered up and you have nobody, and sometimes you can't even speak the language, I mean, God help you, right? So now I think those problems are sort of really reduced, if not completely eliminated, because electronic payments are mandated. So there is a clear sort of chain of payment, and it's easy to prove if you've not been paid. So I think we've gone past some of those issues. But like I said earlier, there are a few other issues that I think, we could continue to strive to do better for these men who are really, in my view, are nation builders.
Can I bring you back to the mental health concern? Because when I did the research on the work that you're doing, you co-authored a mental health booklet in partnership with the Singapore Medical Society. Am I right?
Oh, no. We didn't co-author it. The Irish Students Medical Association, they, contacted us last year because I think a lot of them were stuck here with COVID. So they wanted to produce something, and we just helped them by getting them feedback, giving them feedback on what it should have, shouldn't have. We are not mental health experts at IRR. We don't officially have counselors. In fact, we have zero funding. We have no overheads. We have no paid staff. We have no budget for our media. We have no budget for ourselves. Our volunteers are not even reimbursed for their transport costs or anything. So we're completely zero overheads. So we are not experts on mental health, but those students wanted to come up with a booklet. So they were like, what languages should it be in? So we told them, it should be in Tamil and Bengali and Chinese. And so we, sort of helped them and also curate the content a little bit. This would be useful, this would not be useful. Maybe this would be better if it's in a sort of a diagrammatic format, that sort of thing.
And how are all these initiatives panning out? I mean, it's good to hear that you have different groups of people coming on board and working together, getting translated hopefully in the languages that the workers speak, and helpful, useful. I mean, because you started off your sharing with that one man who attempted suicide, right?
Yeah. So I mean, we've grown, we've come a really long way. We have more than 1,000 volunteers now. And despite the fact that I can't offer them anything in return, I can't pay them. I'm not reimbursed myself for any of this work. And we don't have goodie bags, or we don't have any of those inducements to draw them to this cause. But they come to It's Raining Raincoats to help because they're moved by the plight of the migrant workers, and therefore their dedication and commitment to volunteering with us is incredible. I'm really blessed by the quality of volunteers we have, their utter and unquestionable commitment to this cause. They'll be driving around late at night, early in the morning, up all hours, replying to messages. I mean, it's just incredible. And we've had almost no attrition at It's Raining Raincoats, very little. The volunteers who were with me on day one are still there, and we've been growing. And it's because we've created this community where everybody has a voice, everybody's contributions are welcome. You can volunteer as many hours as you want or as little as you want. And that just brings out the best in people. And I'm so blessed every day to be surrounded by this community of volunteers who are really, my family now.
Good to hear, Dipa, good to hear. Which is why the next segment I've titled it Sustainable Support. A legacy gift is a method of planned donation, essentially leading to long-term sustainable support for a cause you believe in, from the Community Foundation of Singapore. So, I mean, as usual, I do my homework and I try to read up and learn as much as possible about the work that you and your volunteers are doing. But sustaining it, moving it forward, there has to be a better way, right? Again, your thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think many of my volunteers and myself, faced sort of burnout situations many times in the course of the last 18, 20 months that COVID has been with us, because the migrant workers were at the heart of the COVID storm, as it were. And, as you've been reading in the press, many of them still can't, go out. So, a lot of the issues that are historical for us now are still, relevant to them. So it's been relentless and nonstop for us as volunteers to, continuously having to step up to the plate to help them. And I've realized during these last few months that unless you water the well, you can't draw from it. So we need to take care of ourselves in order to be able to stand on our feet and continue to help the workers. So we're hoping that we get some funding, because it's the number of activities we do, and we do a whole lot of activities. I mean, if you went to our Facebook page and messaged us, we could send you a brochure which will tell you all that we're doing. We do a myriad activities with no paid staff, and all of this. We don't even have space. That's why my house is a storage point when I mentioned raincoats earlier. So, but I'm realizing that we can't sustain this forever at this scale, right? And we continue to grow. So we're hoping that, we get some funding. We're able to hire like 1 or 2 paid staff to at least do all the paperwork. We get some space where, we can store things, and, maybe even have like a free store for the migrant workers. So, we are hoping that the universe has always conspired with us. So we're hoping that in the coming year, the universe will conspire with us again and give us some of the structural support that we need to be able to carry on doing what we do.
So you sort of nicely tied up the compassion, fatigue, and also to keep this effort going. So on that point, what about the role of private sector? I mean, there's always been talk about the private sector after the state, of course. The private sector, what more can they do, should they do?
Well, to be fair, there are a lot of private sector entities that support us and help us. DBS, to name one, was a huge supporter last year, as were many other companies. And even till today, we have companies. We actually have a team of volunteers called our corporate outreach team, because practically not a day goes by when a company is not calling us to say, what can we buy if we wanted to assemble care packs for the migrant workers? What can we do? What can we put in the care packs? If we want to volunteer as a team, what can we do? So, we are by no means neglected in that sense, but all the help goes directly to the workers, right? That's been our model all these years. When we do fundraising on Ray of Hope, every single dollar donated is used to buy things for the workers. When companies come to us, we tell them what kinds of things to put together, which then get given directly to the workers. So all of that part, we have more support than we can hope for, right? That part is fine. I'm just now talking about support for us. It's Raining Raincoats as an organization.
And on that point, I just want to take a short break by introducing, it's a tradition in our session, it's called the Fables Talk. Actually, I have a sample of it here, Dipa. Look, you can't really see it on the small screen, but I'm going to just read out the words. As we continue with this conversation, I just wanted to let you know that we do appreciate your time being with us as our guest speaker, Dipa, and we have taken, the LCCS team here has created this deck of cards, and when you finally receive it, it will be on your way to you. It exemplifies LCCS's working principles. We referred to some of it as I introduced the program today in the conversation about respecting individuals' voice space and being relational and inclusive. So LCCS will be launching this ebook Fables Talk in September. That's this month. So please do keep a lookout for it. It will come to you as a small token of our appreciation. At the back of it, there are even some reflection questions. And so that's a small gift that will come to you. As we come towards the home stretch, you notice every time Augustine looks down, I'm just looking at my clock because I have to keep this and keep to the time that's allocated. The final segment of our section is what can each of us do individually I mean, it's amazing listening to your journey and the story you've narrated for us, and the huge group of volunteers that are with you. And there could be someone watching this program today and listening to this conversation. What can an individual do?
Well, there are many things, and you actually alluded to some of it yourself earlier. Obviously, the obvious thing is if you want to volunteer with us, please contact us via Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or my personal Facebook. I'm Dipa Swaminathan, and whichever social media platform you can reach me on, we'd be very happy to have you. So that's one. The other one is what you said earlier about, if you hear negative perceptions voiced about our migrant workers at a dinner table or at a social setting, then to speak up and correct it and say, it's not fair to sort of brand all of these guys, with one brush of the paint, right? I mean, so I think, it's up to each of us to correct xenophobic notions, prejudices, all these kinds of things whenever we hear it. Sometimes it's hard to do it because you don't want to be the one to, express a contrarian view when a group is saying something. But I think if we all did that, it would be a much kinder, gentler, softer society. And that too is important to Singapore because, if Singapore loses its reputation as a melting pot, as a real regional hub, then I think it would be a very costly price for us to pay. And then the final thing is, it's not rocket science. If you see them working on a hot day somewhere near your place, just pop into a nearby gas station, get them bottles of cold water or some Coke, get them some peanuts, some biscuits. They love all these things. They can't afford it, but these are simple things. $5 will buy you a lot. And you pass it to a group of 5-6 workers doing, road works or pipe laying works over there, and they'll be delighted, right? Or if you just see them at a traffic light, you're sitting in your comfortable car, they're out there in a lorry, just smile and wave at them, don't avert eye contact, just smile and wave at them. All these little gestures show them that, you care, that they're not invisible. Sometimes when I give talks in schools for little kids, grade 3 and so on, I always start off with this question and I say, who are everywhere in Singapore and yet invisible? And the answer is migrant workers, because sometimes we get asked, where can I go to find migrant workers? And my answer always is, trust me, you cannot walk, 100 steps out of your front door and not run into a migrant worker. There'll either be a gardener, a tree pruner, somebody doing pipe works or telephone works or road tarring works or construction work or something, right? They're everywhere. And yet we constantly ask ourselves, where can I find a migrant worker? So they're everywhere. So just start noticing them. That in itself would be a great first step.
Well, I know it's kind of hard to do some of the things that even I would like to do in my heart because of the current safety concerns and COVID measures in place, without mentioning the name of this one religious organization. Well, actually it was a church. They actually brought children from the Sunday school to visit one of the places where the workers live to see their conditions. This is pre-COVID. And of course there was food brought and there was a little gathering. So what I'm trying to say is that, what about, when it's finally fine to meet them face to face and have conversations?
But I mean, people don't realize you can do that even now. They're everywhere. Tomorrow you drive down Bukit Road and you'll find loads of roadworks, right? Just drop, if you're driving, just pop into a nearby gas station, leave your car there and just walk out and say hello to them. We don't need to wait for an opening up or, some kind of an organized excursion to say hello to the workers or interact with them. They're everywhere, and they're everywhere even right now. I'm sure somewhere in your neighborhood is a construction site. And if you went and stood, you can maintain your safe distance, have your mask on, but you just waved at the guard outside and said, how are you doing? What's going on? You could have that conversation. Or the guys doing road pruning, they take their lunch break and they sit right there on the pavement and eat out of their brown sheets. So, if you happen to be passing by at that time, again, stand at a safe distance, you'll have your mask on, have a conversation with them, right? I mean, we don't need some kind of orchestrated interaction with them when they are everywhere among us.
I'm smiling, Deepa, because that's what I like about you. You're a woman of action. You know, it's like, okay, Augustine, no, that sounds fine, but let's just cut to the chase and you can do these things right now. So thank you, Deepa, for setting us straight on the path. In our final few minutes of our session, I've done my best to do as much research as I can and to try and, throw up one or two tough questions. I think none of this has ruffled your feathers. But Deepa, you get messages on your phone, and you have all these people talking to you. Is this something that has been brought up to your attention that you feel we're not discussing enough, that even media is not covering enough?
No, I think we've tried to sort of remain authentic in our social media pages, and even the case of migrant worker demises. That's the worst, when a worker dies, right? Because he goes back in a box, and if the death didn't happen on a work site, then the family gets no insurance. They're just destitute. Some of these children of theirs will turn beggars because there's no other income earner. So even those cases, we've brought it to light. So we try and ensure that whatever we can, we bring to the conversation table, because like I said, I truly believe that if we address all of these issues, it benefits not just the workers, but it benefits us as a community. So yes, there may be many topics we've not covered today or discussed, but I would invite your listeners, to just follow our page, because we do bring out a variety of happy stories, maybe not so happy ones, the whole mix, so that you can really sort of get a good perspective of what their situation is.
And on top of all the questions that I've asked, I was hoping there would be questions from our viewers, but I haven't received any signal from our production crew. But nevertheless, I'll push on. For you, I don't even know where to start. You probably have 1,001 things that you need to attend to. But if you had this opportunity to share your wish list priority in terms of like 3 important areas, please leave that with us for some food for thought for us. And it's fine if we revisit some of the points that you raised earlier.
Yeah, so as we go through the rainy season now, obviously one big need of the hour is umbrellas and raincoats for the migrant workers. Now people can just buy this themselves from Decathlon or wherever else and just pass it to the workers they see in their neighborhoods. They'll very happily take it. Or you can buy them and have them sent to us by contacting our social media page, and then we will distribute it as we do. So that's one. The other one is, we will have, very interesting and festive drives coming up for Deepavali and Christmas. So please follow our Facebook page, and we really hope to have a lot of people participating in those drives this year to spread some cheer, to the migrant workers. And finally, if you know of any space that we can use as a store, or you have any other skill set or resource that you think would be helpful to It's Raining Raincoats as an organization, then please reach out as well.
Thank you for that, Deepa. And finally, could you speak to, of course, the people who have been watching us from the beginning of this program till now, and this program will be left on social media, on LCCS platform, so people will discover this as well. I'd like you to leave some parting thoughts for someone who wants to volunteer. What should he or she be prepared to do? Young and the not so young?
Well, actually, we have volunteers from all races, all ages, all walks of life, and there is no sort of great skill set needed or anything really. We have students, we have elderly people. All that's needed is a heart, a real compassion for the workers. Because I always say, don't come to It's Raining Raincoats if you're not truly moved by the plight of our migrant workers, because then your commitment and your output will be a little bit forced, and that's doesn't do anybody any good. So, if you truly care for the workers and want to do something for them, then by all means reach out to us. And we have WhatsApp groups, where volunteers, listen. I mean, are assembled in a way. And whenever we have calls for action, we post it there. If you're able to respond to that call for action, you can put your hand up. If you can't, that's fine. So it's a very, very easy volunteering system with us. Very simple, very accommodating, and can suit all kinds of circumstances.
Well, that's all the time we have for this panel discussion. And so please join me in thanking Dipa Swaminathan for her sharing, and of course all of you for your patience, at least for the initial stages, when we got things going, and of course for your participation by being with us during this 1 hour. Do let us know what you think of our program, and you can leave your comments on our chat box, our chat room. And a final reminder, you can also support the campaign by donating generously using the QR code, and do communicate with us and talk to us through the links in the comment section. We'd also like to call your attention to our next REALink virtual conversation session happening on Friday, the 17th of September, same time, 7:30 p.m. Our guest speaker will be a team, including Let Our Voice Run team. That's another group that you're going to hear from, and we'll be exploring respectful relationships, creating a safe environment in schools. But right now, once again, you've heard a straightforward plug. You have Dipa's contact details on your screen, and she said it a few times. Please do look up Dipa's organization and read their stories, and of course follow LCCS and all of us here as well. Dipa, once again, thank you so much. You've been so wonderful and so patient. We managed to pull through, and until we meet in face-to-face somewhere down the road, once again, thank you, Dipa, for your insightful sharing.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. And until then, from all of us here, and you can't see it, but there's a huge production crew here from LCCS, we say stay with us as the journey continues. I'm Augustine Natwan. Thanks for being with us on the REALink virtual conversation series. Bye for now.